Hello everybody and welcome to the Reesio product demonstration. My name is Warren Anderson and I'll be your instructor today. Now during this session I am going to be sharing my screen with you guys. You don't need to have any other applications open besides the meeting software. And if you have any questions during the session, I'm not able to hear you over the phone, but in the bottom right corner of your screen there's a little Q&A window. Feel free to enter any questions you have in there and I'll click send and I'll try to answer them as they come in. We should have time at the end of the session as well for additional Q&A if there was any questions you had that didn't get answered during the class. So today's session, we're basically going to do a full demonstration of Reesio. So we'll begin with setting up your account and some of the steps you'll want to follow with that. Then we'll look at how to invite people to your brokerage to start collaborating with them. We'll talk about the transaction creation process and some of the features related to that, including document management features, which allow you to share documents, send documents for e-signature, as well as splice documents together. We'll talk about the workflow templates and how you can schedule set series of tasks for your listings and closing transactions. And we'll talk about some of the other features available in the system as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump right in. So first of all, for those of you that do not have a Reesio account yet, you can actually sign up for one straight from our homepage, which is www.reesio.com. You would simply fill in your name, email address, phone number, and password, and click Get Started today. Now, if you are going to be joining an existing brokerage in Reesio, you don't want to actually join from the homepage here. There's actually a special link you'll need to get from your broker, which I'm going to show you guys in just a minute. But if you're signing up for your own brokerage, you can just do so straight from the homepage if you want. Now, if you already have a Reesio account, to sign in, there's a login button in the top right corner. You're going to click on that. And then you can just enter in your email address and password, and then click Submit. All right, so one of the first things that I recommend doing for new users in Reesio is setting up your account. Now, you'll do that by clicking on your name in the top right corner and clicking on Account Settings. So one of the first things you should do is add a photo. As you'll see throughout the session today, Reesio is a very visual product. We use a lot of visual indicators throughout the system. So by having everybody add their own picture, it's going to make it much easier to see who documents are shared with and who certain tasks are assigned to. So to select a photo, you're just going to click the Select Photo button. Then you'll just have to browse your computer for the picture you want to use and double-click on it. Once your photo's there, you want to make sure that you also fill in all the form on the right there, and make sure the time zone is set correctly as well, because in Reesio we date and timestamp everything. Again, when people share documents or view documents or complete tasks, they're all date and time stamped, and all the date and time stamping is going to be displayed in your time zone that you've selected. So make sure it's the right one. Otherwise, when you're reviewing things later on, things aren't going to line up exactly when you thought they did. The next setup step is under the Integrations tab. Now, Reesio can connect with a couple of different products. First thing you should connect with is your MLS, because this is going to let you import your listings from your MLS into Reesio, so you're not having to enter things twice. You can just download it automatically. So to connect it, just click the Connect MLS button, type in the name of your MLS, and you also only need to type the first part of it, then you can select it, and then you'll put in your MLS username and password and click Connect MLS. That's it. If you're a Top Producer CRM user, you can also connect your Top Producer CRM account here. And what that'll do is that'll let you import your contacts from Top Producer into your transactions. Again, it saves you from having to enter things twice there. I've already got my account set up, but if you haven't connected your account yet, just click the Connect button and enter your Top Producer username. And then also down at the bottom here, we've recently added integration with zip forms in Reesio. And by connecting your zip form account to your Reesio account, it's going to actually allow you to pull your forms from zip forms right into your Reesio transactions, and it actually allows you to complete the forms from within Reesio and save them as PDFs once they're done. So to connect to zip form, just click the Connect Zip Form button, type in your zip form username as well as your zip form password, and click the Connect Zip Form button. And then one other setup you may want to do is under the Notifications tab here. Reesio, we do email notifications for, again, almost everything. So, when somebody shares a document with you, you'll get an email. If a task is flagged for your review, you'll get an email. If a task is assigned to you, you'll get an email, right? So this can end up being a lot of emails. So if you want, you can turn them off by just coming to the Notifications tab here and unchecking this box. It says Receive Important Transaction and CRM Emails. Now you can do that because you will still get the notifications through Reesio. Up at the top, you see there's this little bell. So anytime a document does get shared with you, it'll actually appear up here, and then you'll be able to click on those directly to go into the appropriate place. So if you don't want to get the email notifications, you can uncheck it. If you want the email notifications, go ahead and keep that box checked. Totally up to you, but people tend to ask about that, so that's where you would turn those off. Now, one other setup step you should do if you're setting up a new brokerage in Reesio is you can also fill in your brokerage details. Those are over on the left here. You can set the brokerage logo by just clicking on the default logo here and just browsing for your own. To change the other details, such as the address and phone number, just click this little gear icon and you can set that information there. So that's the basic setup in Reesio. Now, in terms of inviting people to your brokerage, I was saying if you wanted to join an existing brokerage, don't do it through that form on the home page. If you want to join an existing brokerage, what you'll need to do is you'll need to have your broker log into their Reesio account. And then on the left, it says Invite Brokerage Members. They click on that. There's two ways to invite people to a brokerage. One way is you can just fill in their email address in this box, and then you would just click the Send Email button, and that will send an email to the person whose email address you entered with instructions on how to set up an account and join the brokerage. Or the other option is this link right here. So each brokerage gets its own unique link, and what you can do is you could actually copy this link and just, if you have like an internal company web page, you could just put the link there and say, anybody that wants to join a brokerage, just please click on this link. Or you could just type an email and put the link in there if you wanted. And then basically how it's going to go when somebody wants to join the brokerage is they'll go to the link, and actually just going to log out here to show you what it looks like. So what they'll do is they'll go to the link, and so this form comes up. All it does is ask them to put in their name, their email address, and set a password. And then once they click Create Account, behind this little pop-up window, there will be a button that they can click on to join the brokerage. So that's how you want to join an existing brokerage. So again, if you need that link, if you ask your broker to log in, they can get it through the Invite Brokerage Members section. So let me just go back into my account. All right, so once people have joined your brokerage, you'll be able to view a list of them by clicking on this little grid icon up at the top here, and then clicking where it says Members. So when people join the brokerage, this is where you're going to be able to view a list of them. Now, one thing you need to know about adding brokerage members is permissions. So over here on the right, you see these little lock icons. So these lock icons indicate whether somebody in your brokerage has admin permissions or not. So what admin permissions are is basically people that have admin permissions are able to see pretty much everything in the system. So they're able to see all transactions, all documents. The only thing the admins can't see is each person's individual address book. Those are private, but admins are able to see everything almost. And the other thing admins are able to do is they are people that are able to approve tasks that have compliance enabled. Now we'll talk about what that means later, but essentially compliance on tasks means before things can be marked done, they need to be approved first. So anybody with admin permissions is able to approve those compliance tasks. So with these lock icons, if the person has an orange lock next to their name, that means that they do have admin permissions. If it's black, it means they do not. So if I wanted to give Kelly Agent admin permissions here, I would simply click on the lock, and then it switches from black to orange. If I need to remove admin permissions, I can click on the orange lock, and it'll switch back to black. If you wanted a little bit more detail about what specific permissions are covered versus admins versus non-admins, we do have a great article available on our permissions on our website. If you want to see that, you can just click the Help button up at the top here. And then on the support page, if you just do a quick search for permissions, you'll see that there's an article here, Brokerage, Admin, and Transaction Permissions. And if you click on that, it's going to show you what permissions admins have versus non-admins for things like compliance and workflows, activities, documents, offers, photos, property details, notes, and so on. So that is how you can add people to your brokerage. Do you guys have any questions so far on setting up your account or inviting brokerage members? If you do, remember you can always use the little Q&A window in the bottom right corner and send your questions that way, and I'll do my best to answer them as they come in. I don't see any questions for now, so we're going to keep going, but again, if you do think of any questions, don't hesitate to ask. So the next thing I want to cover now is creating transactions in Reesio. So to create a transaction, if you're on the home page, there's just a Create Transaction button up in the top right corner. When you click on that, you're going to get this window, and since we've connected to the MLS earlier, we can actually just enter the MLS number of the transaction we want to create. Or if you wanted to, you could create the transaction manually by clicking this button, but if it's on the MLS, why type it twice when you don't have to? So I'm going to put the MLS number in here, click Search MLS. So now it's going to search for the transaction. Usually takes a few seconds here, and then it's going to show us a quick summary of it, including the address, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the price. There we go. So you can see, yeah, I found the property there. So now I'm going to go ahead and select it, and then it's going to ask which side of the transaction am I doing. So I'm going to say I'm doing the listing side this time. Now it's going to show us the details that are coming from the MLS. Now this is only some of the details. We actually import more than what's displayed here, which you'll see a little bit later as we take a look at the transaction after it's been created. But all this information should be pretty accurate. It should be pretty up to date since it is coming from the MLS. If you needed to change things, you can click into the different fields if you want. Now, if you've connected to zip form during the integration part, there is this option here to create a linked zip form transaction as well. What will happen is we check this box. When we create the transaction here in Reesio, it will also create the transaction on the zip form side, and it'll link them two together. So what that means is I'll be able to, a little bit later on, go into the transaction and start pulling forms from zip form right here into Reesio. So if you check the box, that'll do it. You don't have to do that if you want. If you already have a transaction in zip form for this transaction, you don't have to create a new one. You can actually link it later if you want. But if you don't have one, go ahead and check the box to create it. Click the Create Transaction button, and then that'll create the transaction, in this case, in both places. So once you've created a transaction, Reesio is going to ask you if you want to add a transaction member. So adding people to the transactions is where you're really going to start to see the benefits of a system like Reesio. It's going to help you do things like streamline your job, since all of your documents are going to be in a single location rather than being stored all over the place. It's great to invite your clients to your transactions as well, because they're going to keep informed of different things that are happening in regards to the transaction. Another big one is reduction in liability. Since I was saying before, we record all activities with the transaction, such as when people actually view documents. It's all date and time stamped, so we know exactly when things are happening. So there's lots of benefits of adding people to the transaction. Now, you can add people to the transaction without inviting them, but when you do that, you're only going to be able to really look up their contact information. If you want to really be able to interact with them, you need to invite them. So on the Add Transaction Member section, we're going to select Yes, where it says invite this member to join the transaction. Now, when it comes to adding somebody, you've got a couple of options here. Now, if you want to add somebody who's already in your brokerage, or somebody you've worked with in a transaction in Reesio already, you can just click in this box here and start typing their name. If you have Top Producer CRM and you've got a contact in there that you want to use in your transaction, you can click the Top Producer tab and search for them that way. Or you can manually input them as well if they don't happen to be in either system. Let me just go ahead and do a quick search here for one of my contacts. Let's search. Here's the one I want. So now once you've selected your contact, you can choose a role. So let's say this is going to be our seller. We'll do that. Now it does have you the option here. It says is the transaction member part of your brokerage. If you say yes, and they're not already in your brokerage, it will send an invitation to them. And in this case, somebody like your seller, you're going to keep that on no and click submit. And what that is going to do, that's going to add the contact to the transaction, and it's also going to send an email notification to them letting them know that they've been invited to a transaction in Reesio. And that email is just going to have a link for them to click on where they can just set their password they want to use, and then when they log in, they'll have access to this transaction. Now, the idea with this is you want to invite as many people to the transaction as possible. Anybody that's going to be involved in documents or anything, you want to invite them to the transaction, so you've just, again, got that one place to manage all of your documents going forward. To add additional transaction members, once you've added the first one, up at the top here, this little icon here allows you to add a transaction member. Clicking on that will just kind of repeat the process. So let's just go ahead and add one more person. Say yes. Let's add Kelly Agent from our brokerage. So I can just type her name. Right, so select her. Again, I can choose a role. Maybe we'll do her as transaction coordinator. So since she's part of the brokerage, it automatically selected this to yes. And then it asks, do I want to add this person to my address book? Now, this person is already in my address book, so if I say yes, it'll actually duplicate her. So I'm going to keep it on no, and then just click submit. And then that's going to send a notification to Kelly, letting her know that she's been invited to the transaction as well. So that's how you can create a transaction. Now, you can view a list of all your transactions through the transactions page, which you can access through this menu on the left here. All right, so this is the transactions page where you can view all of your transactions. Now, in Reesio, we don't allow you to delete transactions. What we can do is you can archive them. Right, so if I don't want a transaction to display here, I can archive it by just clicking on this little icon right here. And then it's going to go away from my list of transactions because right now it's set to only show me the open ones. Now, if you want to see your archived transactions, what you can do is in the top right, where it says Advanced Filters, just click on that, and then you could select Archived for the status. Now, if I click Apply, it's going to show me the transactions that I've archived, including the one that I just made a minute ago. Right, now, if I want to unarchive it and make it back active, I can just click it again, and that'll put it back to the active. Now, when I did the Advanced Filter here, when I clicked Apply, what that does is it does set a new filter. However, it's only setting it temporarily. And what I mean by that is if I was to reload the transactions page just using the link on the left here, it's going to switch back to the original filter, which was showing me the open transactions. Now, if you want, you can actually set a new filter here. So, if your job had you regularly dealing with transactions under a certain type or a certain status, you can actually set a new filter by going to the same Advanced Filters link. But what you do is you set your filter, like say I only dealt with pending transactions. You can set my filter, and then instead of clicking Apply, I would click Save Filter and Apply. And that basically saves it as the new default and applies it. Right? So now it's only going to show me pending, and if I were to reload the page this time, it's going to keep it on just the pending transactions. Right? If I want to set it back to the default filter, I need to go back here, reset it, right, which sets it to just open, and then I can save it and apply it, and that'll reset it to what it was. And there's another way of viewing the transactions if you prefer, and that's in a little list view. So this little icon in the top right corner, if you click that, it's going to show all your transactions in a single list. And then when you're viewing them in a list here, you can actually click on the different columns at the top here to sort by any of them. So if you wanted to sort by type of property, you could do that, or if you want to filter by the date they were created, you can filter by any of those columns there. And the list view versus the grid view, that stays. You don't have to set a new filter for that. So if I go to a different page and then come back to my transactions, it's going to still remain on that list view until I go back here and change it. All right. So let's go ahead and pull up one of these transactions and talk about documents. So once you're in a transaction, you want to click on the Documents tab, and this is where you're going to be managing all of your documents in Reesio. Now, there's a couple of ways to get your documents here. If you have a document on your computer that you want to upload, this icon right here, the little cloud with the arrow pointing up, will allow you to do that. So if I wanted to upload something, I'm going to click the icon, and I'm just going to browse my computer for the file I want. Now when you upload a file, it's going to ask you to set the signature state. There's three choices. It's either sign later, we're going to talk about e-signatures in a little bit, or you could say that it's been signed offline, or you could say no signature required. Right, so we'll keep it on sign later and click save. So now that uploads the document, and when you share a document or upload a document in Reesio, by default it's only going to be shared with yourself at first. If I want to share the, and that you can see that's indicated by only my picture being here. Right, see this other document I've got? You can see it's actually shared with 3 other people. And this again goes back to why I was saying it's so important for everybody to add their own photo. That way I can see, at a glance who this document is shared with. If people hadn't added their own photos, everybody would have that same orange little avatar thing. And then to tell who's been shared with, you have to take your mouse and hover it over each individual person. So now, with this document I just uploaded, if I want to share it with somebody in the transaction, what I can do is I can just select it over here on the right, and then this is the share icon right up here. Now, when you share a document in Reesio, you actually have a couple options on how you share it. So the first option here is to share it with the public. Now, what that'll do is, in Reesio, actually, for every transaction you create, we will create a single property web page, which is just a single page specifically about the transaction. It's going to have all the details and the photos and description and a map and things like that. And then if you wanted to share a document on that web page that people viewing it could download, you would share it publicly, right? So if I share something here, then everybody viewing that web page will be able to download it. I can also select to share it privately, which means I would just select which individual people I want to share it with, or I can choose to share it with everybody in the entire transaction. So let's say I just want to share it with a couple people. I'm going to select private, and then what you can do is if you click in this box, it's going to show you the different people that are already in this transaction. So then all you do is you would just click on the names of the people that you want to share it with. Right? You can share it with as many or as few people as you like. Once you've selected who to share it with, just click done, and then that's going to send notifications to everybody, letting them know that they now have access to this document. Now, another nice benefit of sharing documents through Reesio rather than, say, through email is if you ever need to remove somebody's access. Right? If you email somebody a document and then you realize later that they probably shouldn't have access to that, there's really not a whole lot you can do. Right? You can ask them, could you please delete that? You're not supposed to see that, right? But whether they do that, who knows? But in Reesio, if we ever need to remove somebody's access from a document, basically just select the document, go back to share, and then in the list of people we've shared it with, you would just hover your mouse over the person that doesn't need access, click remove. Once you confirm you're sure you want to do this, that person no longer is going to have access to the document. And even if they go back to the initial notification they got when it was first shared with them, it's still going to let them know that, sorry, you don't have access to it. So that's how you would upload and share a document. Now, there's actually another way of sharing or uploading a document as well, and that's through email. So up at the top here, you see this icon. It looks like a paper airplane. When you click on that, it's going to display this email address. Now, this email address here is actually unique to this specific transaction. Right? Every transaction gets its own unique email address. And how the email address works is if there's any emails sent to that address, if they have a PDF file attached, then that PDF file gets uploaded to the transaction automatically. So one little kind of tip that I always like to tell people is what you can do is you can copy this email address. You can just click the copy email button. And if you go into your regular email program that you use, like Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo, or whatever you use, you can add a new contact in your email make the name of the contact be the address of the transaction, and then make the email address of the new contact the email address for the transaction from here. And then anytime you get an email from somebody, if it's related to the transaction, you can just simply forward it to your contact, which is the address of the transaction, and that will ensure the document gets uploaded to the transaction. And then if you want to, or once you've uploaded it that way, then it works like any other document, and you can choose to share it or send it for e-signature or whatever you want. Now, if you want to send a document for e-signature, you can do that as well. Reesio includes a free Adobe EchoSign account with all Reesio accounts, which allows you to send your documents for electronic signature. So if I wanted to send some of these documents to be signed, you could select as many as you want, or I could select both if I wanted to, or I can just do the one. And then right here where it says Get Signatures, if you click on that, what you'll need to do, whenever you send a document for signature, you first need to create an envelope to contain the documents. So you just enter the envelope name here, and I'll just call this the hazard report. Down here is where we're going to select who needs to sign it. So when we click in this box, it's going to show us all the people in the transaction. We're going to select who in the transaction actually needs to sign it. So I can select myself, select Alex, select Kelly. So now we'll click Submit. So once you've done that, it's going to then open up the EchoSign window here, where it's going to process the document for a second. Now, if you've never used Adobe EchoSign, it works very similar to other e-signature products that are out there. So what you're basically going to be doing here is placing boxes where people actually need to sign things. So you can scroll down to, you can see you've got some signature boxes here. So now what you do in this drop-down, this has all the people that you said need to sign it. So you're going to select the first person that needs to sign, and then using the tabs at the top here in these different boxes, you're going to drag them all into the appropriate place. So, for example, here's a signature box. I'm going to drag this and put that there. You could resize this if you need to. And I can, let's say, get their name, drag that, do the date. And then for other people that need to sign it, you would just come here, go to the drop-down, select the next person that needs to sign it, and then again you're just going to drag the boxes into position, resizing as you need. Let me just get that all in there. And we'll do the date. So once you've got everything placed where it needs to go, you can just click the next button at the top. That's going to process the document, and then that's going to send an email to people that need to sign it, letting them know where they need to sign it. Now, I can go ahead and see, because I just said I need to sign it. You can see it's also got a box here. So if you need to sign the document as well, it'll take you right into the signing process. Everybody else will get an email telling them to sign it. So I'm going to go ahead and just click Apply. That puts my signature. Click the button at the bottom to confirm it. Document has now been signed by me, and then emails are going out to the rest of the people, letting them know that they'll need to sign it. So then once that signature request has been sent, it usually takes about 10 or so minutes, and then it's going to show up under the EchoSign Pending Signatures tab. And from here, you'll be able to see, exactly who signed a document, who still needs to sign a document. You can send a signature reminder from here, or you can even void a signature request. So this is a document I sent previously for signature. You can see the little avatars indicating who needs to sign it. You see how one of them is kind of faded out and one is colored in? What that means is the person who's fully colored in has already signed the document. The person who is faded out still needs to sign it. So if I needed to send a signature reminder to this person, just click the little envelope on the right, and then on the little pop-up window, all I do is I click the Send Signature Reminder link, and that's going to send that reminder out to the contact. Once everybody has signed the document, it will get removed from this EchoSign Pending Signatures tab, and it will end up under the Documents tab, listed here with the name of the envelope appended to the name of the document. And once it's there, then I'm free to share it or do whatever I need, just like any other document. Now, if you connected to ZipForm during the integration process, there will be a tab here for Forms. So if you click on Forms, this is actually where all of your ZipForm forms will be added. Once you've actually completed the forms here under the Forms tab, then they'll go into the Documents tab just like a signed document. So to select your ZipForm forms, up at the top right, this icon is for Manage Zip Form. You click on that, and then if you're already linked to the transaction, it's just going to start showing you which forms in zip form are linked to the transaction, so that I can select all of them and add them all here in Reesio. Or if I wanted to view the full library of documents, not just the ones that are currently attached in zip form, I can use the drop down here to select the entire library. So then once I select the forms I want, I click Add, and that's going to add the forms to the Forms tab. So from here, to start filling in the forms, all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on whatever form I want. That's then going to pull it up in the zip form interface. Some of the information in the form will fill in automatically, such as the transaction information. You will have to fill in some of the forms yourself, some of the fields yourself. Now this is a form I started working on previously on zip form, so you can see it actually has information such as the buyer or seller's names in there. But you can fill it in just like you would in zip form, right? Click in the different fields and start filling things in there. I'll just go ahead and put something in here. I don't even know what field that is, but you're going to fill it in. Right? Once you've got things filled in, what you'll do is you click Save in the top left to save it on zip form first, and then you can save it as a PDF. If I try to save it as a PDF here without saving it in zip form first, it's going to give me this little message telling me I've got unsaved changes. So if you see that, just make sure you click Save here. That saves it on zip forms, and now when we click Save as PDF, it's going to take our now completed form and create it as a document and put it under the Documents tab. And so once it's there, I'm free to, again, share it or send it for e-signature or whatever I need. There's one other thing we can do with documents here in Reesio, and that is we can splice documents together. What that means when I say splice is we can actually take certain pages from certain documents and combine them into one new document. So if I just needed pages 1 and 3 from one document and pages 2, 4, and 6 from another, and then pages 1 through 5 from a third document, I can splice them together to pick the individual pages that I need. So let's say I want to splice these 3 documents here. I'm going to go ahead and select them all, and then I'm going to click on the splice icon, which is this one. Now, when you splice a document, the first thing you'll do is give your new document that you're creating a name. You can create that by just clicking over here where it says Untitled. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just call this, we'll just call it Training June 8th, since that was today's date. But you would enter whatever you want your new file to be called. Then on the left, you can see it's got all the documents we selected to splice. It's expanded the first one and showing me all the pages there. So I would go ahead and just pick whatever pages I want. Let's just say I need page 1 from here. And then the second document, well, it's only got 1 page, so I'll select it. And then from the third document, you can see I've got 7 pages, so maybe I want pages 1, 3, and 5. So now that I've selected the pages I want, which says Add To, right up here, I'm going to click that. Select the name of my new file that I created just a second ago. And then on the right, it's now going to show me all the different pages that I've selected. Right, so what I can do from here is I can then start to reorder things if I need to. If I wanted this page to be at the top, I can just click it and drag it, move it up there. If I wanted to take this one and move it down, I'm free to do that. Right? So it's just taking a second to load these previews here, but once you've actually dragged and dropped the pages in the order that you want them, your last step is to click Splice down in the bottom right. Once you do that, that's going to take the pages, that's going to make the new document, and that's going to add it to the transaction just like any other document, and again, at which point I'm able to share it, send it for e-signature, or do whatever I need. One other thing you can do related to documents here in the transaction is you can create folders if you want to help organize things a little bit. To create a folder here, this is the Create Folder icon. You're just going to click on that, type in the name for your folder, click Create Folder, and that creates the folder. To move documents into the folder, select the ones you want to move, click on the little toolbox icon, select Move, and then that's going to bring up a little pop-up showing you the list of all your folders. You can select the one you want, click Move, and then that puts the documents in there. Right, now to view those, I just click on the folder name, and there they are. And if you want we do allow you to create folders within folders as well. If you needed to do that, we could just, once you're inside a folder, add a new one, and then it'll just add it within. So any questions on uploading or sharing documents or sending them for e-signature? You guys are pretty quiet so far, so I'm hoping that means that you guys are listening and getting everything that I'm saying. There are no questions, but again, if you have any questions, this is your time, so please feel free to ask. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the workflow templates and compliance tasks. So to view your workflow templates, over on the left, there's a workflow templates link you can click on. So what a workflow template is basically a list of particular tasks that you would normally do for your transactions. Now there's a couple of ways to create one of these templates. One is I can actually just create a new template by clicking this icon right here. That'll just make a blank template which I can start adding my own individual tasks to. Or we actually supply a sample listing and buying template which you're free to use as a starting off point, which is what I would usually recommend. So let's say we want to add a new listing template. I'm going to click on this. That's going to create that new template right here. And then you'll see that this template has all of its tasks listed on the right here. All right, so, and also if you needed to, you can also duplicate a template. So if you've created a template before and you wanted to make a copy of it and make some slight changes to it, when you've selected a template here, this little icon here allows you to create the duplicate. All right, so looking at the list of tasks over on the right, the first thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to these tasks is compliance. So I mentioned compliance a little bit ago when we talked about admins in the brokerage. So tasks that have compliance enabled are indicated by the orange lock. And basically what the compliance enabled means is that before a task can be marked done, if compliance enabled, it needs to be reviewed by an admin first. Once the admin has reviewed it, they can either approve it or not approve it. Right? So by default, all of the tasks here have compliance enabled, which means before anything can be marked done, an admin's going to need to review it. Now, you may not need that for every single task. Right? For example, the second task here is adding property photos. Right? So you might say, I trust my agents enough. When they tell me that they've added their photos, I can take their word for it. In that case, we can remove compliance from this task by simply clicking on the lock. Right? When the lock is gray, compliance is no longer enabled. That means whoever the task is assigned to is free to complete it whenever they want. And in fact, a task without compliance means they could even assign that task to somebody else if they needed to. Whereas if a task has compliance enabled, it cannot be reassigned, it cannot be deleted, it cannot be marked done unless the admin approves it first. So the next thing here is due date rules. So by default, none of the tasks in this workflow have any sort of due date rule, which means that the task can be completed whenever the agent gets around to it. Now, you may want to set deadlines for certain tasks. So say, for example, this first task here is listing agreement. Right? They need to upload the signed listing agreement. So let's say we want to give them a week to do this after the list date. To create a rule like that, we're going to click the Add Rule link. Then we're going to set the number of days, so say 7. And then you can actually choose days or business days. So we'll do 7 days. And then we can choose before, on, or after. So we'll do 7 days after. And then this last drop down, we can select listing date. So now we click Save. That creates the rule for this task. And then how it works is when we apply this task to one of our transactions, Reesio is going to look at the date, or the list date, and then calculate 7 days from that and set this as the due date for this task. Now what happens when the task has a due date rule applied is 2 days before it comes due, 2 days before the task is due, Reesio is actually going to send an email notification to the person the task is assigned to, letting them know that they've got this upcoming task to complete. And if they don't complete that task, Reesio will actually continue to send an email to them once a day, every day, until they actually mark it done. So the default is due date rules are not set for the task, but if you wanted to set them, you can easily do that. Another thing you can do with these tasks is you can set who the task is assigned to. So you see this little icon on the right, this little avatar there, it says no assignee. What that means is whoever actually applies the plan or the template to the transaction is actually going to be assigned all of those tasks, right? So now you may not want that. You may have certain people in the brokerage that always do certain tasks. If that's the case, you can actually set who the task is assigned to right here at the template level. So, say for example, Kelly Agent is a good photographer, and we have her do all the pictures for us just because she's so great at it. If I wanted to make sure that this property photos was always assigned to Kelly Agent, I would select it, just like click on the little icon here. This is showing me everybody in the brokerage. I would select Kelly, so now her little avatar appears there, which means whenever this workflow gets applied to a transaction, this task is always going to be assigned to Kelly. And so she'll get a notification whenever that happens, letting her know that she's got to go out and take some photos. Now, if I wanted to change several tasks at once, rather than doing one by one, you can use the checkboxes on the left to multi-select. Right? So let's say, when Kelly does the photos, we also have her put up a yard sign and a lockbox. Well, we can select these two activities, and then using the icons at the top here, we can select a sign, select Kelly, and now all of the selected tasks are assigned to Kelly. One other thing you can do with the task is you see this icon that looks like an eyeball here. Basically what this eyeball does is it sets whether a task is private or public. So if the task has the gray eyeball, that means that the task is set to private, which means only the person who applies the workflow or the person who the task is assigned to is able to see it. So that means like your clients, for example, won't be able to see all of these tasks. Now, if you want, you can set it so people can see the different tasks, even if they're not assigned to them, by just clicking on the icon. If it's orange, it means the task is public and that anybody in the transaction, if they're looking at the workflow section, will be able to see the task. So that's what that icon does. Now, the visibility setting can actually be set at the transaction level if you want as well. So, what a lot of people will do is just leave the templates so the tasks are set to private, and then once the template gets applied to a transaction, they can go in and set individual tasks to be public as they need to. But that was the little eyeball icon. And then the other thing you can do here is you can add additional tasks to your workflow. If you want, you can add a task to the bottom of the list by just clicking on this Add Template item, and that'll add a new task to the bottom. Or if you want to add a task in between any of the existing tasks, you can just put your mouse between them and click the little link, and that'll let you add a new task as well. So that's how you would set up the workflow templates. Now, to actually apply those workflow templates, we're going to go back to our transactions. We'll pull up one of the transactions, and when you pull up a transaction, by default, it takes you right to the workflow page, so you can see all the tasks you need to do. So if we wanted to apply the workflow template, we're going to click the Add Tasks from Template icon right here, and then this drop-down shows all the templates we have. So I'm just going to choose the one we just made, click Add Template, and then that schedules all of the tasks that are in that template. So now you can see most of the tasks are assigned to me, except for those 3 that we assigned to Kelly. Most of the tasks have compliance enabled, except for those 2 at the top. And then you can see the first task has that due date rule. So Reesio looked at the date this transaction was listed and then calculated that this task was due back in March, because this is an older listing. So when it comes to actually completing tasks, any tasks that have compliance enabled, as I was saying before, those need to be flagged and reviewed by an admin. So this is how that would go. So if I'm the agent and I've got to complete this listing agreement task, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it. And so as part of this task, I need to upload the signed listing agreement. So to upload a document to a task, you just click this icon here, Link Documents. That shows you all of the documents that are currently in under the Documents tab. Right, so then to select the document to link, you just click the little link icon on the right. If you want to view the document, you can click this icon to actually read it. But if you know this is the one I want, you can just click on link. And actually, watch when I click link. Watch this little flag right here, and watch right here next to the lock. As soon as I link this document, the flag at the top goes to black, and then the little flag appears right here. So what this now means is this document has been flagged for review. Right, so any admins that are in the system, they're going to get a notification letting them know that they have a document for review, or if they happen to be on their dashboard, there is a task flagged section, which now shows that there's a task that needs to be reviewed. So now, as the admin, what I would do is I would click on Tasks Flagged. It's going to show me the task. So I'm going to click on the title. That takes me back to the transaction, right to the task details. So now as the admin, before I approve this task, I'm going to want to review it. Right, so to review the document, you can see the documents right here. I click on the icon. That's going to pull up the document where I would review it. So let's say I've taken a look at this, and then I notice, oh no, they're missing the signature down at the bottom. Well, in that case, I'm not going to approve it since it's got no signature. So what I would then do is I can just close this, and then up at the top of the task details, you see this little thumbs up. If I click on that, I can choose either thumbs up to approve it or thumbs down to not approve it. So since the signature is missing, I'm going to say do not approve. So now you can see the task is marked as not approved, and that's going to send a notification back to the original agent letting them know that, hey, that task has been not approved. Now, all that agent is going to get a notification saying is that the task wasn't approved. It's not going to tell them why it wasn't. So I would also recommend if you don't approve something to just add a quick comment here. Right? You could say, missing signature line 10 or whatever. And when you click comment, that's going to add the comment to the task, and it's going to send a notification back to the agent letting them know that I've added a comment to his task. So once he sees what he did wrong, he would probably go to the Documents tab, send the document for signature, make sure everything is signed where it needs to. Right? Once he's got that new document all set up, he would come back to the task, click the link icon, choose the new document. Again, we're just pretending here, but we'll pretend this is the new document. They're going to click link. So then that's going to add the new document. It's going to flag it for review again. And you'll also notice that the previous documents are there. We don't allow the agents to delete the old documents. We keep them there for version control. Right? I mean, if your agents are taking 5 or 6 attempts to do things properly, you're going to want to know that. So we don't allow them to delete it. Now, as the admin, if I wanted to, I could actually unlink the document from here. But normally the agent will not be able to unlink it. So once the document's been flagged, and again, as the admin, I would come in, I would open up the task, I could click on this icon to review it. So then once I've reviewed it and decided, yep, this is correct, I approve, I come back to thumbs up, I click the thumbs up here to approve it, and then what that's going to do, as soon as it gets approved, it's going to be marked done. So right now, you can see the task there, but as soon as I approve it, it's going to get marked done, and it's no longer showing on my list of tasks. Now, if I wanted to see a list of the completed tasks, I can do that. I just need to click here where it says Show Open Tasks and switch that to Show Completed. And then you'll see there's the listing agreement. Now, one thing I can do once a task has been completed, because it went completed as soon as I marked it done, if I don't want it to be yet complete, I can actually mark it incomplete here by unchecking it. What that'll do is it will move it back to the list of open tasks, but it'll still keep its approval, which means that now, because it's still approved, I can actually complete it when I'm ready. But so if you need to open a task up for additional comments or whatever, that's how you would do it. You would mark it incomplete, and then when they're ready to actually mark it complete, they can just come here. And since, like I said, it's already approved, I can just mark it complete whenever I want. So that is how to flag a task for review and how to review it as an admin. Tasks that don't have the compliance enabled, again, they can just be marked down whenever they're completed. And then another thing you can do here related to tasks is you can add one-off tasks, and non-admins can do this too. So that, and again, that's really the point of collaborating with people is allowing other people to assign tasks for people to do in the transaction as well. So once you've got some people added, say you're doing you're closing a deal, you've got the buyer and the seller in there. Maybe the buyer's agent wants to add a task for their buyer to upload their income verification. To do that, they could just come here, click Add New Task, and just fill in the details. So, upload income verification, and the description. You could say, bank statements, W-2s, etc. And then here for the who it's assigned to, when they click here, it's going to show everybody in the transaction right now. So they can select the buyer, and then if they want to set a due date, they can do that. When they set a due date at this point, it's just going to give the calendar. It's not going to do the due date rule. So you say, okay, give them a week, and then once we add that, that's going to create that task. You can see it's down here at the bottom, and that's going to send a notification to the person that's assigned to, letting them know that they've got this task, and then they would kind of follow the same sort of process to upload the documents and mark it complete when it's done. So yeah, that is the workflow template section, and how you can flag and complete tasks for review. Any questions on creating or applying the workflow templates or flagging tasks for review before we move on? And we're almost done here. I'd say we've probably got about 10 more minutes to go, and then we'll be finished. So again, I'm not seeing questions, so I guess we'll just keep on going. So the next thing I want to look at here in the transaction is the Activity tab. So like I was saying before, all the things that I've been doing within the transaction, such as sharing documents, viewing documents, assigning tasks, they're all being recorded under the Activity tab, which goes back to why it's so important to invite other transaction members, because it reduces your liability because we've got a record of every activity. You can see this tab shows the avatar of each person related to the different things that have been recorded. Most of the things are done by me, so it's got my picture for almost everything. But you can see everything's date and time stamped, right? Warren has assigned the task. Warren has marked the task as complete. Warren has viewed the document, and again, all date and time stamped. So it's great because, you're not going to have people coming back later on and saying, oh, I never received a document, or, I reviewed a document, because you've got the record of exactly when it happened, and you can show, not only did they get it, but they viewed it, which, again, from a liability reduction standpoint, is huge. So that's the Activity tab. Now, another tab we have here is Messages. So this section is kind of cool. What it lets you do is you can actually, if you start an email from here, if I go to New Message and start a new email, I can click in here and select the people in the transaction. When I send this message, it's going to go to their regular email account, and then if they reply to the message, what's going to happen is the reply will come to my email account, like you sent a normal email, and it's also going to record the reply right here in the transaction itself. Right? So as long as you begin your email messages from here, you can then take them to your regular email system and reply from there, and all of the replies will be appended to the correct chat right here. So then later on, when it comes time to reviewing transactions, if you're an admin, you don't need to have your agents print out or forward you all their emails. Right? They can just come here and be able to view the whole conversation right within the transaction. Right? No more having to flag different emails for different transactions. Plus, the great thing is you will continue to get notifications through Reesio as well anytime a message is replied to. So that's the Messages section there. It's pretty cool. Notes. You can also add notes here. Now, notes, when you add them, are only going to be able to be seen by you or admins in the system, right? You don't need to worry about, say you add say you have a accepted offer, so you've got the buyer and the buyer's agent in the transaction as well. If your buyer's being a real pain in the butt or something, you can go ahead and you can add a note here, and you say, buyer is being a real pain, not fun to work with. You don't need to worry about him or her seeing that note. When you add notes here, only you are going to be able to see them, or the admins in your brokerage. You don't need to worry about other people seeing them there. So if you need to take notes, you can do so confidently there. And then the other two pages here, photos and details, this shows you all of the information from the MLS. So remember when we did the initial create transaction process? When we did that, it actually pulled in property photos, which we can see here under the Photos tab. So you can, if you want, you can actually add captions to these photos. If you wanted to delete some here, you can remove them. These photos will all be displayed on the single property website that we create for your transactions, which I'm actually going to show you in a minute. The details tab here shows all the rest of the details we imported. So we saw like the address and stuff when we did the transaction, but I was saying at the time that we actually pull more information. So you can see it's got the property details there, it's got the description, the things like floor coverings, MLS number. So all that information, should be pretty accurate. Now, if things have changed on the MLS since you created the transaction here in Reesio, you can actually update the data by clicking this button. In fact, when you update the data, if you've connected to ZipForm, you can choose either to import the information from ZipForm or to import it from the MLS. Now, when you import the information again, it will give you the option of importing the photos as well. Just beware, if you import the photos again, if there was already photos before, it will duplicate them. Whereas the other information in the transaction, if it's updated on the MLS, it'll just overwrite with the new data. But for photos, it won't overwrite them, it'll duplicate them. So because of that, when you do pull the data again, pulling the photos is optional. Right? If I check this box, it'll pull them again if I already have the duplicates. So if you already have them, if they haven't changed, just uncheck the box, and then you can just select it, and that'll update the transaction in Reesio with whatever is currently on the MLS. All right, so last thing I want to talk about is the single property website and the ability to make or take and receive offers from the single property website. So let's just go ahead and jump into one of my transactions. So single property website. See up this up at the top here, this little icon? This is how you can access the single property website for the transaction. If you click on it, you see it's a nice little website. It's got property photos, so all the photos that we downloaded from the MLS will be here. You can see it's got the description, it's got the details, it's got a map as well. Remember we talked about sharing documents? I said there was an option of sharing the documents publicly. So if I had shared any public documents here, they'd actually be available for download right under here. These pages are indexed by Google, so if people are searching Google for the transaction, it can show up there. They can be shared on Facebook, they can be tweeted on Twitter, you can print them, email them. If you click this plus, we've got almost 200 different social media sites you can share with as well. So there's lots of different ways to share these pages. And then the other thing we can do with these single property websites is we have the ability to accept offers from other agents. So what you could do, if you wanted to be able to use this to receive offers, what you can do is you could like add a note on the MLS that says for any agents that want to make an offer, for them to just go to this web address. Right? And so what happens is when somebody goes to this web address, and actually I need to log out because in Reesio you can't actually make offers on your own properties. So let me just log out here really quickly. So when somebody goes to the single property web page, if they wanted to make an offer, they're going to click the Make Offer button, and now they'll choose are they the buyer or the buyer's agent. If they say they're a buyer, we'll actually tell them that they need to either contact us directly or to invite their own agent, because we can't actually take offers from just buyers. It has to be an agent. So if they say they're the buyer's agent, though, then what it'll do is it'll ask them to either quickly create a Reesio account, or if they have one, they would just enter in their email address and password. Once they've logged in, they can then fill in the details of the offer. So let me just quickly add some numbers in here. I don't know if they're accurate, but I'll put something in here to fill it in. Click continue. We can set contingencies, drag and drop them. Contingent on sale of another property. Any other terms, you can add those. Then we need to upload the document, so the purchase agreement. So we click upload, find the document we want. Then once that's been uploaded, click continue, and then we get a chance to review the offer. Once they've confirmed, yep, this is the offer we want, they'll click submit, and that's going to submit the offer. Now what's going to happen is, as the agent, I'm going to receive a notification letting me know that I've received an offer on one of my transactions. The seller is also going to get a notification that they've received an offer as well. But they're not really able to take any sort of action on it. Only as the agent am I able to take action on the offer. So let me just go ahead and log back in. So when I'm logged back in, you'll notice now if I click on the little bell at the top, it's going to indicate that I've received an offer. So I can click on this and it'll take me to the transaction, take me to the offers page. So now I can review the offer. It's got the basics here, but if I click review, I can actually review the entire offer, including a link to the document that they uploaded. So then at that point, I could either choose to accept the offer, which if I accept the offer, because we've got the e-signature built in, it would take us to the process of having our seller sign the document where required, or we can choose to decline the offer. So if we choose to decline the offer, that's just going to send a notification back to the buyer's agent, letting them know that they were declined. So now some of you may be wondering, what about counteroffers? Now Reesio doesn't have a specific counteroffer feature, but you can do counteroffers through the document section. Because what happens is when a buyer's agent makes an offer on the transaction, they are going to be added to the member section. Now, this is kind of weird because the person I did the offer with was Kelly agent. Kelly was actually already part of the transaction, so this is a little bit different than it would normally be. But what happens is when somebody makes an offer on a transaction in Reesio, they get added to their own group. Right? And how the groups work is everybody that's in the main transaction gets put into group 1, and then everybody in group 1 is able to see everybody. Everybody in group 1 can see everybody in group 1, but they can also see everybody in group 2, group 3, or any other groups. Whereas people that are in other groups, so like this buyer's agent got put into group 2, that person can only see people in his own group, which is just him, and people in group 1. If I was to get another offer from another agent, that person would be put into group 3. And so that person could only see themselves and the people in group 1. That way, multiple buyer's agents who are making offers, they're not able to see each other. They're only able to see the main group, or the creating group as we call it, and then themselves. So what you would do for a counteroffer is, because this person gets put in their own group, you could go to the Documents tab, you could write up a counteroffer, and then upload it, just like you would any other document, and then what you do is you would just share it with that specific buyer's agent. So that way they've got access to the document, and then when they're ready to make another offer, they would go back to the single property website, make the offer through there, and then hopefully, it would be one you could accept, and once you accept it, it's going to then start the whole process. So, yeah, that is how you can basically receive offers through the single property web page. And that, honestly, was really everything in the class for today. We covered pretty much everything in Reesio, all the way from setting up your account to inviting people to your brokerage, as well as creating transactions and everything related to that. Plus, we looked at the workflow templates there, and also the single property web pages and how to receive offers. So, yeah, that was everything on the agenda today. I would like to open it up and see if you guys had any questions on anything. You guys have been pretty quiet so far, so I'm hoping that means you're good and you're listening and not just ignoring me. But yeah, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. If you don't, what I want to talk to you guys about is just if you need help later, we do have customer support available. Now, you can see our phone number is available on the side here.
Phone support is available from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday, which is 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. We also have email support available by emailing support@reesio.com, and it's available from 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday to Friday as well. And you can also visit our support page, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by going to support.reesio.com. So once again, I'd just like to thank you all for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed the class, and I think you'll enjoy working with Reesio once you get your account set up and running. Thanks a lot, you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.